Imagine an elite British army, considered one of the most powerful military forces of its time, armed with the latest modern rifles and drilled in strict formation, marching confidently into battle. Now picture that same army utterly defeated by warriors wielding nothing but spears and shields, their discipline and courage overwhelming the British lines. It sounds like a story from fiction or legend, but this astonishing event truly happened at the foot of Isandlwana Hill in 1879, during the Anglo-Zulu War. In just a few hours, over 1,300 British and colonial troops lost their lives, their ranks decimated, shattering the long-held myth of imperial invincibility and leaving a scar on British military history. Yet, unlike the celebrated victories at Waterloo or Trafalgar, the story of Isandlwana is rarely told, often missing from the pages of history books and museum displays. The reason is simple: Isandlwana was a humiliation, a story the British Empire desperately wanted to forget, quietly closing the door on this painful chapter. This battle was about far more than tactics or weaponry. It exposed the dangers of arrogance, complacency, and the grave mistake of underestimating your opponent. The Zulu warriors were not a faceless horde. They were highly disciplined, fiercely united, and determined to defend their homeland and independence against foreign invasion. News of the disaster sent shockwaves through Victorian London, causing a national crisis, shaking public confidence, and forcing the British government to confront uncomfortable truths about its empire. The Battle of Isandlwana stands as a powerful cautionary tale, a stark reminder that military might, no matter how advanced, is never a guarantee of victory. Once you learn the story of Isandlwana, with all its tragedy and lessons, it's a chapter of history that's impossible to forget. To truly understand the events at Isandlwana, we must first step back and explore the world in which this dramatic clash unfolded. The late 19th century was a time of sweeping change and intense competition, especially across the vast and resource-rich lands of southern Africa. By the late 1870s, the British Empire stood as the most powerful force on Earth, its ambitions stretching across continents. Driven by a hunger for land, wealth, and influence, Britain sought to expand its control over southern Africa, eager to exploit its mineral riches and strategic position. Yet, in their path stood the Zulu kingdom, a proud, fiercely independent nation forged by the legendary King Shaka and now ruled by his nephew Cetshwayo. The Zulus were renowned for their military discipline, unity, and the strength of their traditions, making them a formidable obstacle to British ambitions. British High Commissioner Sir Henry Bartle Frere viewed the Zulus not as equals, but as a threat to British plans. Determined to remove this obstacle, he deliberately engineered a confrontation, setting the stage for war. In December 1878, Frere issued an ultimatum to the Zulu king, demanding the impossible, terms he knew would be rejected. This ultimatum was less a negotiation and more a declaration of intent. With diplomacy exhausted, war became inevitable. In January 1879, Lord Chelmsford, confident in British military superiority, led a well-equipped invasion force into Zululand, convinced that victory would be swift and decisive. The British invasion was meticulously organized into 3 columns, with Chelmsford commanding the central force, nearly 4,700 men strong, marching deep into Zulu territory. The British soldiers, many veterans of imperial campaigns, expected little resistance. Around their campfires, they spoke of a quick campaign and an easy victory. But the Zulus, united in defense of their homeland, prepared for war with equal determination. Their warriors, or impis, gathered in secret, ready to fight for their land, their king, and their way of life. The stage was set for a monumental collision, empire against kingdom, ambition against sovereignty, on the sweeping plains of southern Africa. The British camped at Isandlwana, a rocky hill on an open plain, chosen for convenience, not defense. The camp was left unfortified, wagons scattered, and regulations ignored. British commanders, especially Chelmsford, were overconfident, dismissing Zulu capabilities in scout reports. They believed their rifles made them untouchable, expecting the Zulus to attack head-on, but they misunderstood Zulu tactics and speed. On January 22nd, Chelmsford, acting on faulty intelligence, split his forces, taking half the men to chase a phantom Zulu army. Around 1,800 men remained at the camp, led by Lieutenant Colonel Pauline and later Colonel Durnford, neither with real combat experience. The camp was exposed, its defenders unaware of the danger closing in. The British thought they were hunting the Zulus. In reality, they were the ones being hunted. While Chelmsford searched elsewhere, over 20,000 Zulu warriors hid just miles from the British camp. The Zulus, organized into regiments, waited for the perfect moment, following a sophisticated plan: the horns of the buffalo. The main force, the chest, would attack head-on, while the horns encircled the enemy, cutting off escape. A British patrol accidentally discovered the hidden Zulu army. The Zulus, revealed, rose as one and advanced in disciplined formation. The British scrambled to form a firing line, stretched thin across a massive perimeter. The Zulu army moved with terrifying speed and purpose, their numbers overwhelming. The horns raced to encircle the camp, sealing the British fate. The British, once hunters, were now the prey. The trap was closing fast. The stage was set for disaster. The British opened fire, their rifles cutting down hundreds of Zulus, but the warriors kept coming. The firing line held briefly, but ammunition ran low. Boxes were hard to open and resupply faltered. As the rate of fire dropped, the Zulus surged forward. The horns completed their encirclement and the British line collapsed. The battle turned into desperate hand-to-hand combat. Zulu warriors, masters of close-quarters fighting, overwhelmed the British. The camp descended into chaos. Tents torn down, wagons overturned, the ground a scene of horror. A solar eclipse darkened the battlefield, adding to the confusion. Within hours, the British force was annihilated. Only a handful escaped. The Zulus had achieved a stunning victory. The silence that followed was broken only by their triumphant cries. Behind the numbers and statistics of war are the deeply personal stories of those who fought, men whose lives were forever changed by the events at Isandlwana. For many young British soldiers, the campaign in Zululand began as an adventure, an easy assignment in a distant, exotic land. They marched with confidence, expecting a swift victory and tales to tell back home. But they were unprepared for the harsh reality that awaited them, a brutal fight for survival against a determined and skilled enemy. The chaos of battle shattered their illusions, forcing them to confront fear and uncertainty. For the Zulus, this was not just another battle, it was a fight for home, for family, and for the very freedom of their people. The stakes could not have been higher. Their motivation was immediate and powerful: defend their way of life, their land, and their loved ones, or risk losing everything they held dear. Every warrior knew what was at stake. Survivor accounts describe the chaos of the final moments: panic spreading through the ranks, desperate escapes, and heroic last stands. The battlefield became a place of confusion, fear, and raw courage. Some British soldiers, realizing the battle was lost, fled toward the Buffalo River, pursued relentlessly by Zulu warriors determined to secure victory. The story of Lieutenants Melville and Coghill, who died trying to save the regimental colors, became legend. Symbols of duty and sacrifice in the face of overwhelming odds. But for the Zulus, this was more than a victory. It was a necessary stand, a defense of their kingdom and their way of life against foreign invasion. They proved to the world their discipline, courage, and unity, showing that they were a force to be reckoned with, not just in battle, but in spirit. Isandlwana was a day of both tragedy and triumph, remembered differently on each side. A moment in history that continues to echo through the generations, reminding us of the human cost and the enduring power of courage. News of Isandlwana stunned Britain, sparking outrage and a political crisis. The empire's response was swift. Reinforcements poured into South Africa, and a second, more brutal invasion began. This time, the British advanced cautiously, building forts and overwhelming the Zulus with sheer force. Despite their victory, the Zulus couldn't withstand the full might of the empire. The kingdom fell at Ulundi, King Cetshwayo was captured, and Zulu independence was destroyed. The British divided the land, sowing chaos and ending Zulu unity for generations. Isandlwana's story was downplayed or reframed in Britain, overshadowed by tales like Rorke's Drift. The Zulu victory was largely erased from mainstream history. The real reasons for British failure and Zulu brilliance were forgotten. The cost of empire was hidden behind myths of heroism. Isandlwana is a timeless warning against arrogance and underestimating your opponent. The British believed their technology made them invincible and paid dearly for it. The battle forces us to see history from all sides, not just the victors. The Zulus fought for survival, using brilliant tactics and courage, Remembering Isandlwana means honoring every story, Zulu and British alike. History isn't just about victories, it's about learning from uncomfortable truths. These stories challenge our myths and teach empathy for all who suffered. The lonely hill of Isandlwana stands as a monument to forgotten voices. By retelling these histories, we gain wisdom to avoid repeating old mistakes. Isandlwana reminds us, every story matters, and history shapes who we are.